Let's get spooky. This is our Station Boo, where we explore the dark and mysterious corners of the world of horror, and we know that you are dying to listen. Welcome to the Spooky and Kooky podcast of Earth Station Boo, where we talk all things horror. Introducing our lovely haunted hosts, we have Lisa.
Howdy, guys.
We have Karen.
What's up, my horrorholics?
And I am Shannon. This episode, we are hoping not to gain a taste for brains as we explore zombies. All right. When we're all thinking of zombies, there is that common phrase of, "They're coming for you, Barbra," from Night of the Living Dead, which I think is an iconic film. But let's go ahead and talk kind of like, what are our first thoughts or our initial thoughts in this conversation when it comes to zombies? Lisa, why don't you go ahead and start?
Oh, well, I don't know. They're kind of, I love zombies. I'm a little oversaturated with zombies because it's been popular, but it's just the whole unknown of you never know if the dead are coming back to life. It might happen, it might not. There's so many factors in it that's kind of really unnerving to me. I mean, brains, but I don't know. It's definitely something worth talking about for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Karen, what about you?
Oh, I absolutely love zombies. Like, it is my thing. But I'm also absolutely terrified of them because if there's that hint of what if the dead can walk the earth again, given the diseases that we have, the viruses that we have, there's like a family of disease known as the prion disease, which is a family of diseases that is progressive neurodegenerative disorder that affects both humans and animals. And in animals like deer, moose, and stuff, we know it as the chronic wasting disease or the zombie deer disease. But when humans catch it, it becomes dementia. Scary, huh?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then we have funguses that attack animals, like insects, like ants, like the zombie ant fungus.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found out there was another type of fungus that attacks cicadas.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes them hypersexual. And it eats away at them, especially the males. Like, the males have it worse. I don't know if I think the males have it worse because it eats away at their genitalia, at their rear, and their abdomen, creating this white plug of spores. And they're female, right? But they're also male because they'll start mating with females, and then they'll start acting like females to get males to mate with them, and thus, progressing this disease. So this fungus. So with all this stuff that's happening in the world, yes, I absolutely love zombies, but at the same time, I'm terrified of them because I keep hearing about these diseases.
Yeah. So, the initial thoughts here on zombies, I think it's one of the most likely monsters that can actually come. I mean, the fact that most of the world's organizations, like the UN and like many of the governments, actually have zombie protocols, I think is absolutely interesting. That it's something that like they actually have to think about and plan for because it would be an apocalyptic event. But I think it's interesting that of how real it can be, yet it is so far-fetched for us. Like a lot of humans don't think of it as something that would actually happen in their lifetime. They think, oh, it's just in the movies. It's just a TV show. It's just a whatever. And in reality, like, it could literally happen.
I mean, yeah, it's like, okay, the whole voodoo aspect of using magic or whatever type of religion that uses magic to bring about zombies, that doesn't scare me. But these diseases, these
Mm-hmm.
viruses that's happening, yeah, nah, fam.
The
And then
scientists who are not curing cancer but are trying
yeah,
to do warfare.
yeah. And
The fact
also, the other scary fact is how all of us would act towards each other because we get so paranoid about who's infected. That
Yep.
makes
yeah,
it even scarier. And then
Yep.
humanity goes downhill.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So let's just go ahead and like we're basically already doing it.
Yeah.
But we're kind of like starting to get into like the actual like discussion of horror, or zombies, I should say. But before we get too far into that, what was your first or most memorable horror or zombie horror film? For me, my first one would have been Night of the Living Dead, but I think my most memorable one was probably Shaun of the Dead.
Okay. Well, for me, like I remember two. That was like my first ones. It was Night of the Living Dead, and this is like the remake with Tony Todd. I remember that one. Vague. I remember that one vividly. And then there was the Return of the Living Dead 2, because we had it on. Wait for it. Beta tape,
Yeah.
and I would watch that thing religiously. But my, memorable one is Shaun of the Dead because of the fact that these are two guys just living their life. Be like me living my life, and oh my god, zombies.
And how video games ends up saving the day.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Lisa, what
Okay.
about you?
The first one, I would definitely say Night of the Living Dead. I remember seeing it, and it just terrified me.
Mhm.
And also the other one, Carnival of Souls, back from the 50s or 60s. That was pretty scary too. It was pretty,
Is that one
it,
considered a zombie?
kind of, sort of. Some people say it's
I thought it
zombies. It's kind of between, but it's still, when
Mhm.
I was a kid, I saw it, I thought it was zombies.
Oh.
Um, the most memorable zombie movie that I actually love, and it scares the living daylights out of me to this day, is Train to Busan.
Yeah.
Because I just, I think what scares me is just the whole, what is humanity going to do? Just like in Night of the Living Dead, where they all kind of just went against each other. It was just,
Mhm.
that's what's scary to me. I mean, just like, I don't know. It's just, but I could see that happening like so easy.
Yeah. I mean, so Night of the Living Dead was actually inspired by a book called I Am Legend, which was inspired by. There was another piece of work that one was inspired by, but it all comes back to Haitian folklore, where essentially a bad shaman or a bad priest would actually enslave your body. So your soul would be gone and your body would remain as a loyal servant to this evil priest until the end of time.
or until they die.
Yeah.
Or until they died. But I think that's kind of interesting. What are your guys' takes on like the folklore portion of it? Lisa, do you want to start?
Yeah. I mean, I think as far as the folklore, cool thing is Boss at Work is from that area, and he's told me some really interesting stuff that when we delve deeper into it, I can tell you some more stories. But I think Wes Craven came really close when he did Serpent in the Rainbow, uh, because that's basically how it worked. They had that stuff that they would enslave you. And I think it's really creepy to think that you have absolutely no control, but you still know what's going on. I mean, that's that's the most I know about the folklore. I just know, you know, what I've seen and what I've read. I know I'm kind of superstitious, so sometimes I don't delve into things that are a little darker when it comes to stuff like that. But that's just me. I'm an artist. We're all superstitious.
Yeah.
I mean,
Karen?
my first dealings with zombie and zombie actually dealt with the Haitian version of the zombies with voodoo practices where you do see the priestess or priest reanimate the
The
body,
Bakor?
the Bakor,
Yeah.
reanimate the body through magical means, or what is actually essentially a zombie drug. They're not dead. They're basically, when you first discover the body, they're not dead. They're in this like coma-like state that renders their heartbeat very slow to where it mimics death. And then they come back, and the priest or Bakor come back and dig them back up, and like, you are now my slave, and you'll be my slave till one of us dies, because this zombie is a person that is now, no longer in control of their body. They know what's going on, but they're no longer in control of their body. So that was my first introduction to zombieism and the whole voodoo practice of zombieism. Because I remember certain movies watching as a kid that used that trope.
I mean,
And then later on,
that was kind of like the mainstay for zombies until you kind of had a Resident Evil and a lot of that kind of stuff become more popular.
well, it's necessarily not that, because you had the zombies that were just basically servants and slaves, and then somewhere in between that, and then Night of the Living Dead, you had zombies that ate people.
Right.
Well, actually, if you go back to Mesopotamia and the epic tales of Gilgamesh, there is actually a Mesopotamian goddess of love, fertility, and war who actually threatened a city of rising the dead and having them eat the flesh. And that's actually the first documented sign of flesh-eating zombies.
That's
is
pretty
all the
cool.
way from back then.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that one.
I didn't either. That's really cool.
I actually learned that when we had picked this and I started kind of doing some of my own research on zombies, I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Let me double check the folklore portion of it, because I mean, one should understand like the mythology behind it all, which we'll have a whole episode on that. And I read about that and I was like, that's actually kind of interesting that flesh-eating undead or flesh-eating dead were part of a threat from a very enraged goddess. So
Yeah, my research came up a lot of things, Haitian and stuff. Of course, there was this one blip that came up about Greeks probably thinking that the dead will come to the undead will rise again, and that's why some of the graves you had like some of the bodies weighed down with stone and stake. And I was like, that's more like
it was mostly people who were known to serve, and I'm using air quotes for our listeners, who served Hades or served one of the underworld gods, because they feared the underworld gods, because they feared that they would come up and enslave all of humanity and kind of make them into their slaves before they were dead.
I was like, yeah, that's kind of more like vampirism than zombieism. Yeah. In my eyes, that's what I saw. I was like, you're staking them.
But when you go back and you look at a lot of the folklore, you actually see a lot of ties to vampirism and the origins of zombies. If you look at European folklore, a lot of things that have a lot of zombie characteristics actually are part of like early vampiric lore. I mean, the fact that we have the term zombie is specifically because of Haitian and Congo terms that are used for their religious practices, which use the word or something that's like it, which is along the lines of zombie. I just saw it not too long ago.
It's like Zumbu or
Zumbi, which technically means God, and then fetish, and in another term it means souls. So, or like in another language it means soul. So like the name zombie comes from a very specific place, but when you look at the characteristics of what is used for that term and you look in other folklore and mythology, you see that almost all of humanity had some form of a zombie. They just called it something different. Like the Arabics used the term ghoul.
True.
Because technically in Night of the Living Dead, they're called ghouls. They're not called zombies. It was a fan calling. Actually, I think a French magazine called it zombies first, but in the movie they call them ghouls. They don't call them zombies. They actually never uttered the word zombie.
I mean, ghoul tends to fit as well, because you have ghouls some ghouls are mindless, brain eating, flesh eating. Then you have other ghouls that retain their intelligence, like with the
And in Arabic folklore, they're considered or they're considered demons. That's what ghoul is a demon.
yeah, and that folklore. Then there's other folklore that uses ghoul as a familiar to witches and vampires. So it's like
Right.
a
Yeah.
broad, but also it's a particular term used for the particular thing.
I mean, and if you go based off of that, I mean, how far off is that from the Haitian voodoo portion, where they are slaves? The zombie is a slave, or the ghoul is a slave to its master, and therefore it could be considered a familiar, if based on like the terminology and the definition you want to use for it. And we're like going in.
Yeah.
But the difference between those two is like at least one of them lets their unfamiliar have the intelligence to do what they need to do, and the other ones it's like doesn't have free will.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, how much free will does a familiar really have?
Not much. I mean, look at Renfield, the movie. I mean, he was cool.
Exactly.
He had as much free will as he wanted or needed, and he was also cute, very cute.
So we kind of already touched on it a little bit, like Night of the Living Dead being kind of like the most like iconic film for people and kind of considered like a first for most, but it's not the first zombie movie. Have you guys seen the first one?
It's like White Zombie with Bela Lugosi.
It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
I've only ever seen parts of it. I've never actually seen the whole thing in one sitting.
I've seen parts of it too. I haven't seen the whole thing, but I knew that was like one of the first.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's go ahead.
And if I remember correctly, that also deals with like voodoo zombies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like the Haitian like zombie portion was kind of like it was pretty prevalent in early stuff. It wasn't until so Night of the Living Dead, I Am Legend was kind of like the turning point. So after those, it kind of started to veer off more onto like a scientific side of it. So being like the parasites and the fungus and like the weird things. And not so much, it's not so heavy on the folklore portion. It's not saying that like there wasn't any after that. It's just saying that was kind of like the turning point. Because even in Night of the Living Dead, they don't talk about how the ghouls came to be. It just suddenly there was the masses. And so it's kind of like that turn of we're not going to talk about the religious practice that of turning somebody into a zombie. We're going to actually take it into this is just a mass apocalypse now.
Well, there was another movie before that called The Plague of the Zombies that used a virus that affect the undead. I don't remember when it came out, but I knew it was before Night of the Living Dead.
It was before, but it was not popular. Most people didn't know it or see it.
Oh, what I liked about the Night of the Living Dead, it was like the first modern zombie movie, but it was also the first movie that featured the first Black horror lead, which was his name was Jones. Hold on.
You know, talking about
Dwayne Jones. His name was Dwayne Jones.
Yeah. He was fantastic in that film.
Oh yeah, he was. He was.
Yeah. And I will do a full episode on that film because it deserves its own episode. Especially on the social commentary that came with that film. I mean, Romero even said, he's like, no, this was not just a horror film. There was meaning behind everything that was in that film.
Yes.
And I think that's absolutely fantastic that even though there are people who probably don't want to talk about the social implications of that film, they can still enjoy it even if they don't want to talk about it.
Right.
But it's still there. And so for us who do want to talk about it, we can because we can see it. And we can talk about it. And we can see how even today, there's still some similarities, but we can also see how far we've come from that point as well. In talking about that, we kind of probably also should probably talk about some of the different types of zombies. We've kind of talked heavily on the slower zombies,
Oh,
but
before
there.
before we go on, before we go on, there is one zombie movie I want to talk about real
Okay.
quick. It's called Zombie. It came out in 1979. It has like the one and only scene of a zombie fighting a shark. That's the only zombie movie.
I forgot about
I
that.
remember it. I remember watching it, and I was like, "Is that a zombie fighting a shark?" It's the only zombie movie I've ever seen that has a zombie fighting a shark.
I know
That's
what
all
you're
I'm.
talking about.
I'll say.
Yeah.
The remake, I think it's Return of the Living Dead, the remake where they were in the mall.
Oh yeah.
There's the one scene where the
Dawn of the
zombie
Dead.
eat. Oh,
No,
Dawn of the Dead.
yes, Dawn of the Dead.
Dawn of the
Oh
Dead.
yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is Dawn
Wow.
of the Dead. But the zombie eats the girl's belly button ring, and me and my roommates in college laughed so hard at that. We thought that was the funniest scene we had ever seen in a horror zombie film. We laughed so hard, but it was just like one of those like, this is the remake. This is a new take on it. Zombies also want to, take out the piercings. Apparently,
Was it remake or was it in the original?
I want to say it was in the remake because
Huh.
it was. I was in college in 2005. Yeah, 2005. So this
Okay.
would have been like the belly button ring was kind of
Yeah.
like
Okay.
a thing at the time. So
Wasn't there like a pregnant girl stuck in the mall with them or something?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, there was.
Yeah.
I don't know. My favorite quote from a zombie movie was Day of the Dead, where they're in that bunker and the military people were there and they're acting like buttholes. And then when the zombies came in and they were eating one of the military men, and the guy was like, "Eat it! I hope you choke on it! I hope you choke on it!" That was
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So there are different types of zombies. We've got the slow zombies from like Night of the Living Dead, which are also, kind of more related to like the Haitian zombies that we've talked about. Then you have like the scientific zombies. So the zombies that are brought to life by viruses, radiation, a whole gamut of different things that specifically come from more of like a scientific standpoint. And then out of those, you have the stupid fast zombies, like from 28 Days Later and Resident Evil. So what are your guys' takes on all of that?
okay. So, well, Resident Evil, their zombies were pretty slow. Even though they were brought about by like scientific means, if you watch it, they're kind of shambling along. 28
Not
days
all of
later.
them though. Like the dogs were fast.
Okay, yeah, the dogs were fast. The lickers were fast, but as a regular human zombie going on, they're kind of like meandering. 28 days later, yeah, that was like the rage virus.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
the rage.
yeah.
Yeah, that that
Yeah.
that freaked me out
What
a
about
lot.
War Z? They were pretty fast.
And
Mm-hmm.
not only were they fast, they were kind of smart too, because like
Yeah.
they hear a
That's
noise, they start hyper focusing on that one area to get to where they need to
Mm-hmm.
go.
Well, I mean, if you're going to talk about intelligent zombies, just look at the TV show iZombie.
Yeah,
Like they were everyday people, except they were super pale and had no, pigmentation to them. So and then they could like zombie out, but so you
yeah.
had like that whole thing. So there's a lot of different types. So what are your guys' like favorite examples of some of these different types of zombies?
My favorite example of the chemical zombie, like of the chemical spill, would have to be Train to Busan. They lead to those fast zombies. That's my favorite chemical zombie. When it comes to like the parasitic zombie, remember Night of the Creeps, where those little worm thingies?
yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that just trips me out, man. I'm like, ugh. Every time I see like a slug or something, I'm like, Night of the Creeps. So we have that one. There was one. It's a pathogen zombie. It was a pathogen. It was caused by an STD.
Oh, I know.
Contracted.
Yes.
Con-
Contracted, yeah.
That was just thinking about it gives me oh. Uh,
I'm sorry.
like,
I know y'all can't see us. Y'all can't see us, but the way Lisa was like, "Oh my god,"
Yeah, the repulsion was there.
it was like,
what about the newest one that came out on HBO Max and with the mushrooms, the mole, the fungus?
28 days
Oh,
later, not
No,
28. The Last of Us
The Last of
yeah.
Us. I
with
really like
it.
those.
And that one's based off of a video game.
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah, hmm but
I
there's
love
also
how I love how so many of the zombie things come from video games and literature.
oh yeah, there's also another one that deals with the funguses, fungi, whatever you want to call it. The Girl with All the Gifts. It was both a short story and it became a movie.
Yeah.
Um, that was it has Glenn Close in it, and I was like, Glenn Close in a zombie movie? Let me watch this. Oh my god, this is a damn good zombie movie.
Yeah, it was.
Was I also kind of like the movie Carriers with Chris Pine.
Oh yeah.
But that was
That
that really a zombie movie though? Because hinted at something, but it didn't hint at what it was.
I don't think they ever actually showed like what happened to people,
Hmm.
but it kind of like feeds a lot of the scientific side of like how zombie movies kind of come to be.
Hmm.
I also haven't watched that one in a hot minute, so I might need to rewatch it,
How
to be
There's also
about
perfectly honest.
how about Wreck? Have you guys seen Wreck and Wreck 2? Where they're
I have
stuck
not
on
seen Rec 2, but I have seen Rec.
yeah,
the one
that was
the Spanish movie where they're quarantined in a hotel.
uh the yeah, maybe it's a hotel because I know one of them they're quarantined on a ship. I can't remember if that's Wreck 2.
Because I know they did a U.S. remake called Quarantine and Quarantine Two. But if it follows the same thing,
Wasn't
then
Chris
yeah,
Pine in quarantine? No. No, he
no.
was in something else. Never mind. I'm thinking of a
It,
different film.
I mean, is Rec the one that because I remember watching it and then I watched part two and they were talking about it was a religious thing that afflicted people and turned them into zombies because they
Right.
had priests in it.
Yeah. It
Okay,
was
yeah, I watched that.
Spanish. Yeah. It was good though. I liked them both.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. Then we had like the scientific zombies. If you think about it, that was put together like Frankenstein. The monster is an undead, so he theoretically is a zombie, and he was smart and held conversation. So yeah, he's a zombie
Yeah.
Yeah.
and Reanimator.
Although he is definitely more based off of European lore versus Haitian.
Yeah.
Like the lore that Frankenstein would have come from would have been more based on some of like the original stories for some of the vampiric stuff
hmm
versus like zombies. But yeah, it's the whole undead thing. And that's where
Yeah.
you kind of have to almost be like, so what is a zombie technically? And with there being so many different types, it kind of makes it harder.
It's got yeah. It does make it hard to like. So you're undead. Your heart doesn't beat, and yet you're talking to me. Okay, does that make you a zombie or a vampire?
And I mean, even Simon Pegg, who did Shaun of the Dead, he even said, he's like, zombies shouldn't be fast. He's like, actually hates the fast ones. He's like, a zombie should be somebody who's dead and who wishes they were to be dead. And so they should be moaning and groaning. They shouldn't be having conversations. They shouldn't be fast. They shouldn't do all this stuff. They should be slow and like whatever. He's like, because they're dead. And that's what a zombie is supposed to be, is dead. And he actually had like a whole thing on it. I saw the interview like a month ago, but basically he was of the mindset that like a zombie is actually a perfect example of life and death. If you take care of yourself and do all the right things, you can kind of stave off death to a
hmm
certain extent. But when you don't, you become sluggish and you get closer and closer. and like and so I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, it reminds me of the scene in I want to say Return of the Living Dead 2 where the two grave robbers were talking to one of the zombie heads. It was a female And they're like, why are you eating people? Because she was like, we're in pain and we eat to feel. So the more that they are the way they are, the more pain they feel. So it was kind of interesting. I was like, oh, let me relieve you of your pain. Stab you through the brain.
So killing a zombie would be merciful.
Yes, it would be.
Yeah.
Unless it's one of those hard to kill zombies and you're like, well, damn it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lisa, do you have any more examples of different kinds of zombies and movies that you love them from?
Well, I do like the zombies from Zombieland. They're kind
Yeah.
of medium.
Mm-hmm. Not
Walk,
super, super fast, but just fast enough.
yeah. And then you got a variation of zombies in The Walking Dead. Some are fast,
Mm-hmm.
some are slow, some are, and that's kind of nice. That's kind of a nice variety because you never know. All of a sudden, there's one behind you while the other one's just galumphing around. You
Mm-hmm.
know. So, but those are pretty much the examples. I really do like the mushroom ones the best, and anything made from a scientific lab. Those are really my favorite.
Yeah. Yeah, like I mean, like if you think of like Planet Terror and what is it? It's kind of like its mate. I usually watch the two of them together. Death Proof.
Death proof. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I kind of like those ones. They're funny, but yeah, at the same time, it's like, that could happen.
Have you watched there's like two Australian zombie movies. One of them's called Wormwood. And people who have a certain blood type don't turn into zombies. It's like you have to have like an A positive and you're okay. But everybody around you who has like a different blood type than you are like zombies.
Wasn't that
And
a
I believe
mini series?
no, it's a movie called Wormwood. And then there's Wormwood Apocalypse, I believe.
I'm gonna have to write that down.
It's Worm with a Y. WYRM
Oh,
Wood.
Road of the Dead with
Yeah.
Jay Gallagher.
Yeah, it's the first one and then the second one, Road to the Dead. And then there was another one called The Undead, where this rain comes down and burns. It's like acid rain, but it's not acid rain. And certain people turn into zombies. And the main character, which I really love, his name is Miriam, and he's like an outdoorman, and he hates people sometimes, but he has to save these people because they're stupid and they're doing stupid things, like going out of his bunker. And there's one scene that I remember that everyone's stripped naked and they're fighting against aliens. And they're all naked, mind you. And he pops guns out of somewhere, and you're like, "Dude, you're butt ass naked. Where those guns come from?" But those two were like caused
You
by.
know where they came from, Karen. You know.
I
We
know.
all know where they came from.
But those are two like that were caused by alien interaction, and I like those two. Because number one, it's very rare for me to watch, a zombie movie from an international zombie movie that I don't hate. Most of the time, they're kind of like, it's okay. But Wormwood and The Undead, perfect. I love those two. It's from Australia.
Speaking,
I've
and
actually
that
seen Wormwood,
You
I
need to
have,
and
watch it.
that's a good one.
I'll watch it. And that reminds me, there's a '80s movie that I went to see in the theater called Night of the Comet, where the comet went by.
Yeah.
And,
Oh
everybody who
yeah.
was shielded in like a lead thing, like the radio station, all turned into like ghoul zombie type of things, but they were intelligent, but they were still zombies, kind of, sort of. But I
Okay.
love that movie. It's campy and it's just a fun movie.
And it has like the guy who played Chakotay in it. I
Yeah,
forget his.
I forgot what his name is too, but
I love
yeah, that
Chakotay.
was always a fun zombie movie.
So out of all of these different types of zombies that we've been talking about, which one is your favorite? I have to agree with Simon Pegg. I think the slow zombies are my favorite.
I don't know.
I
Like I can enjoy a lot of these other types of zombies. Like I love 28 Days Later. I love the whole 28 like series, but there's just something about like the good old fashioned, reanimated corpse that has a hard time moving because it's been dead. You know, there's just something classic about it that I love.
I mean, I guess for me, I like the fast moving zombies because of that whole anticipation of are you going to survive or are they going to kill you? Because they're moving and you're moving. Either way, one of y'all going to have to stop and breathe. And we know you ain't going to be the zombie because the zombie don't have to breathe. So I like that whole anticipation of is this person going to live or die against this fast zombie?
Yeah.
I will have to say I do like the scientific zombies, like that come from nature, like The Last of Us and everything, because it's just something so unexpected. And it just like proves that we haven't been taking care of the planet. And you're like, okay, so this doesn't work. So what do we do now? And that whole, okay, how are we going to survive this? Because there's always ways for them, they always end up adapting somehow. So it makes it a little bit scarier.
Yeah, it's nature doing what nature does best.
Exactly.
Which zombie do you think you guys would survive?
The shambling one, because I can outmaneuver the shambles, the ones that walk. Oh, like, la, 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 la. I mean, I could outmaneuver them unless they become into a group. And after that, I'd be like, well, do I want to go through them like I'm a linebacker here? I don't know. I'll go around them.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with Karen. The
Yeah.
shambled ones.
The shambled ones.
Yeah.
The slow moving, not completely there. Yeah. Exactly. All right. So Karen, you came up with this question. I love it. The dead are rising. What are 3 things you'll be grabbing to survive? Since it's your question, why don't you go ahead and answer it first?
A good pair of running shoes. Because if I'm going to be walking and, running, I need a good pair of running shoes. Number 2, a backpack so I can haul some stuff. Food, water, maybe like an extra pair of socks or so.
That's way more than 3 things.
I said a backpack. A backpack so I can haul stuff.
Okay. Is this bag already packed?
Could be, could not be. I don't know.
If it's already packed, cool. But if it is not already packed, you're grabbing more than 3 things.
A backpack. Let's just say it's a backpack. And then either a blunt weapon or a sharpened weapon. Probably a sharpened weapon. Because I have swords around the house. Don't ask why I have swords around the house.
I'm not, because I have swords around my house too, so it's all good.
Same. Lisa, what about you?
I would definitely have a backpack full of supplies. I'd probably have a torch, like one of those little lighter torches, so that I could. And then I would probably have one of my swords or a blunt object.
Rock on, rock on. As a Floridian, I have a go bag. So I would grab my go bag, but then I actually probably would have, instead of taking a sword, which could be heavy and kind of cumbersome, I probably would actually kind of pull a Negan and kind of have like a barbed wire nailed bat type thing. One, it's a whole lot lighter, but it's still solid. And if you have some stuff there on the end, it takes care of the issue. I don't know what my 3rd thing would be, though, to be perfectly honest. I can only think of like those 2 things where I'm like, okay, I know I'm grabbing all of that, but maybe a friend to watch my 6.
I mean, that works. They could be your mule, carry extra stuff.
God.
The person I trip so I can get away.
Yeah.
That's distraction. Or make it a person you don't like. If it's somebody you like, you'd be like, come on, man, you're my 6. Come on. But if somebody you don't like, it'd be like, okay.
Yeah.
It's like stiff arm push.
Oops.
All right. So given the opportunity to write and direct a zombie feature film, what would be your lore and what kind of zombie would you utilize? Lisa, do you want to go first?
Sure. I actually have been working on something.
Ooh.
It's actually been a 10-year project. I'm not very good at writing. I draw the pretty pictures, but my friend Sean Taylor's been helping me out with it. It's basically a mad scientist that kidnaps people and it takes different organs as organ transplants, and different undead crave these different organ transplants, and every time he grows a new one in the host, they turn into like a zombie that crave the things. And this one girl's got to kind of save a bunch of stuff. That's just a basic, because I don't want to give it totally away.
Well, that's kind of cool.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been brewing for about 10 years or so.
It kind of reminds me of that movie called Shivers. But anyway, for me, I would probably make, something like Shaun of the Dead, but with zombies that were created by scientific means, either a virus or a parasite that got loose. And so now these groups have to either protect themselves or get off their damn asses and, go to the scientists or go to the go to the CDC and find out, can we fix this and can we stop this or can we do something besides sit in our basement?
Okay.
It's good. I like that.
I would actually probably do something that's a little bit more based off of that Mesopotamia lore of a goddess being infuriated and taking it out on humanity, and then but having it be almost apocalyptic in nature. But I still want it to be the slow zombies. Still want it to be the slow zombies, but I want there to be like, I don't know, little quirks to it where, like how it gets like how you can become a zombie, I think will be a little bit different than like the original lore. But, like I want it to get passed around, but at the same time, all of a sudden all the dead have risen. And it's because we didn't do what we were supposed to do and we pissed somebody off.
I would like to see a zombie movie where, because you're a body, you're a dead body. At some point, parts of you are going to fall off in the sun because you're becoming bloated and there's insects crawling off of you. I want to see that type of zombie movie where you go from being a normal, regular corpse just walking, and then now your movements are slowing down, and then bits and parts of you are falling off, and then you're like dead.
So you want a zombie POV?
That, or just like, having people like, we can stay right here and just watch them decompose. It'd be all right. They're slow movers. That one exploded. It exploded by itself. Oh, okay. Because that'd be hilarious if you're like in your apartment just watching these zombies is trying to like get into your house or just walking down the street and they're in the summer heat of Georgia heat or in Florida heat, decay goes rapid. And so you're watching them just decay right in front of you and you're like, we could stay here for a few days and let them die out.
Yeah. So here's like a weird question. With reanimated corpses though, do you think nature would consume it? So like insects, other kind of animals like vultures and stuff like that. Like, do you think that they would go ahead and start eating these walking corpses? Or do you think that they would leave them be because there's something wrong with them? I know I just threw everybody like for a loop. Again, this is an episode we probably should have saved this one for like a video one because we've got some great faces in this.
Well,
I can say Resident Evil, I think it was the second or third one, where the crows, you could they're carrion eaters and stuff, so they obviously got infected by eating it. So I guess it depends on the nature of the zombie. Maybe because made in a lab they taste better. I don't know. Yeah, I'm just going.
Certain can't pass between species. Like if this zombie disease does not pass between birds and stuff, yeah, I could totally see carrions. It's like, oh, you're rotting. You're still moving, but you're rotting. We're still going to eat you because you're rotting. And because of that, and because that there's certain type of barriers in their brain, they won't allow for certain diseases or viruses to pass through. Same way, it doesn't do the same for humans because we do have that protective barrier that protects us from certain bacteria, diseases, and viruses. So it wouldn't transmit, depending on what type of virus it is, or depending how the zombieism came about. Depending on how it did, it probably wouldn't, intermix with species.
This is true, but there are like certain ways that some of us humans pass that there are animals that do not eat the remains of those who have passed with certain things because we taste bad. Or if like an animal has been known to have like something and it passes away, other things won't eat it because they just instantly know that, oh, that's not something you want to eat.
I mean, if they have that sense to not eat us, they'd be like, "Oh, that's something wrong with that person." But over there, that person's okay. I mean, I can see them like skipping over certain people, over certain zombies, be like, "Oh no, no, not that zombie, but this zombie."
Yeah.
That'd be hilarious too to sit there watching. Like, why did they skip that zombie? I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So final thoughts. We'll go ahead and do our final thoughts. So what are some final thoughts we have on our fun little undead friends? Karen, what are your final thoughts?
I would love to see like more zombie films, literature, especially like stuff like World War Z, because that was actually a good book. I really enjoyed that book. The movie was okay, but the book was better. But yeah, zombies for the win, because believe it or not, it could happen. It could happen.
Yeah.
Let's
What
prepare.
about you? What about you, Ms. Lisa?
Also, yeah, I would like to see a little bit more. I'd like to see a little bit more nature-bound zombies, like more funguses and diseases and stuff like that. I actually think those are because, like Karen said, it could happen. So what if another strain comes out and you can't do anything about it?
Yeah.
So I definitely like to read a little bit more literature like that, as well as see a few more films that are based off. I was really sad when The Last of Us ended. I'm really hoping they're gonna do some more of it because that was really good.
Oh, they are. They are.
They are. They
Mhm.
are. I think it's already been like greenlit for season 2 and 3.
Yep. Mhm.
Cool, cool.
Yeah, I think it's already been greenlit.
And also they changed the storyline a bit too. So
They have.
yeah, because instead of like in the game, Joel gets murdered straight up.
Like in the beginning, it doesn't he?
Yeah.
Like in the
It's pretty.
second part, he gets straight up murdered. But in the second season, they're keeping Joel alive.
Cool.
Yeah, they've got it down for another 2 years. So,
Cool.
yeah. And of course, Daddy Pedro.
Yeah,
He did
Daddy
so
Pedro.
good.
Yeah.
So good. We
I love
love
that.
us some Daddy Pedro in here.
No, he's not Daddy. He's Zaddy. He's Zaddy.
Zaddy Pedro, yeah. Uh, I love zombies, and I love how there is such diverseness between them. I do think there should be a little bit more that takes nod to the beginnings and like the early like lore of zombies.
Oh, yeah.
I think that there should be more on like the folklore portion. But as a whole, I think zombies are a lot of fun, and it's unfortunately a very realistic thing, which is why it's in horror. It's something that, can terrify us and bring us to, the edge of our seats and have us wondering, is this real? Is this real or is this fiction? Come on. But yeah, I think zombies are pretty cool. And I think there's a lot of really great zombie media out there
Oh,
between the
yeah.
books and the video games and the movies and the TV shows. There's just so much out there. And I think there's so much more that can be done and explored with it.
I'll be watching a zombie movie tonight.
There you
I
go.
might watch more.
I think I might do the same. Do we want to take a second before we end this podcast and talk about the cinematography, maybe special effects stuff?
My favorite special effects would have to be The Last of Us, because damn, I don't know how long some of those people sat in the chair to put on those prosthetics for the fungus. Hours.
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 I know, because Stan Winston's studio did all those effects. They built the giraffe and everything. And since I'm going to the school, I get to see all the behind the scenes. Yeah, it's
That's
pretty
cool.
intense.
Yeah, I don't think I can sit there for 8 hours. I mean, after hour 2, I'm like, listen, we need to finish this. But when it comes to makeup, that's my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah. The prosthetic portion of it, like the practical effects are actually like for zombies, I think are really, really good.
Right.
And I think it's actually kind of cool that a lot of studios are now using more and more disabled individuals for zombies. So you have a lot of your amputees and people with birth defects and things like that that they're able to have in as extras specifically for these kind of films because they're already
Yeah.
missing the parts.
I mean, the remake of Dawn of the Dead, they had a lot of amputees and those who were disabled in the movie as zombies,
Yeah.
and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that's very
Absolutely.
cool. And you have to think about it, like even with like Night of the Living Dead, that was a movie that did some amazing work when it came to like the special effects portion. Even though it was a small portion of the film, they still did a fantastic job of actually making people look
Yeah.
dead.
And I mean, the gruesome when they were eating. Oh man,
Mm-hmm.
that was it wasn't it Tom Savini who did the special effects. I know he did it in the second one, Dawn of the Dead.
I'm not sure. Let me look up. But I think you're right. Him and Romano.
George Romero, like yeah,
Yeah, Romero were
close.
yeah, they're pretty close. No, Tom Savini was not on there, but Tony Pentelena.
Okay, I know. All right, I couldn't remember who it was, but I know Tom Savini did like Dawn of the Dead, so I remember watching the documentary on it. So
Yeah, so good.
Came from a long way from blue makeup to make you look undead to like actual makeup that makes you look undead.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
it's not the cornflakes. I hate the corn. I don't
Oh
like
yeah.
that's just awful.
Oh, like texture wise, my ADHD is going, no, don't do that.
It looks more like it makes you look more like you have scabies or something than actually rotting flesh.
Yeah. Yeah, because wasn't it like a mixture of like Elmer's glue and cornflakes?
Yeah, yep,
Because they can make the Elmer's glue kind of like peel up a little bit.
yeah. It's just
Mm-hmm.
easier to get some fake blood and some toilet paper
Mm-hmm.
and some spirit gum and you've got it made or liquid latex and it's so easy.
Oh yeah. Especially with liquid latex. Unless
Yeah.
you have an allergy.
Yeah, and then you might have to go the spirit gum route.
Because now I think about it, I know The Walking Dead, they use like barbecued meat for the flesh. What did they use like previous to that? Was it also cooked meat or it's just
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know what studio actually did that. I don't think it was Stan Winston Studio.
If
Look
I
that up.
remember correctly from there was a documentary that I watched that was kind of like about like horror movie special effects when it comes to like people things that you see that people are eating and all that. It's usually pig, and they usually have it like what's out there now. Actually, they usually use like some like plant based something because there are people who can't eat pork.
oh.
One of the reasons why I love movies that like Simon Pegg is like behind the scenes on is he is as big of a nerd as the rest of us. And so
Hmm.
he gets like those references in there. I mean, even with like Shaun of the Dead, the cinematography on it was fantastic. The way that they
Yes.
would go and like they would like line up the shots specifically to like mimic something from an old horror movie. Like if you ever watch the TV show Spaced, he does that all the time. There's like so many like shots and little things that are like set up where you're like, dude, that was totally a reference to Star Wars right there. Or good Star Trek reference there, bro. But in Shaun of the Dead, he did that a lot where like he would like line up a scene so that way it would look like something from like Night of the Living Dead or Dawn of the Dead or a lot of like the historic zombie films. I was
You
like,
know, there's one zombie film that we didn't get to talk about.
which one?
Children should not be playing in the dark or in the graveyard. It's a
Children should
weird.
sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. Was it children shouldn't play with dead things?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
that's a weird zombie movie, and I like it. especially for the one scene where the guy throws the girl to the zombies and the zombies take her and they're like, they look at him like, what the fuck? I have to say the makeup on that was actually pretty good. I actually like that makeup.
It was pretty good.
Oh, that one's hilarious. I remember seeing that on like IFC or yeah, I think it was IFC like years ago. That one's funny. That one's a funny one. And that was from what, 1972?
I think so.
Yeah. It kind of the movie with Daniel Radcliffe, was it Swiss Army Man?
Oh yeah.
It kind of gives me like
yes.
Swiss Army Man gives me that movie vibes.
Oh.
Because you know how they just sit there and they hang out with the corpse on the couch and like make him smoke the pipe and all that kind of stuff. Like I'm like, okay, right there, I can see the connection. Any other films that you guys can think of that you would be like, oh, I have to say this one. If I don't, I'm gonna feel bad.
See if you guys can help me with this. What is the one where the zombie's the pet?
Fido.
Fido, yes.
Fido.
That was a great one, and it was so funny.
It has Bill Cullen in it. He's Fido.
Oh, you know what we didn't talk about? We didn't talk about Lovecraft. H.P. Lovecraft had quite a bit of zombie influence with Cool Air, In the Vault, The Outsider, which were all things that were used for Tales from the Crypt. Question. Would you guys consider the Evil Dead trilogy zombie movies? Or would you consider them demon? Evil Dead.
Oh. Ooh.
I mean, I have to say more demon because they possess like, bodies. It's not a zombie movie where they're like, how zombies eat flesh and whatnot. This one's more of demonic possession and they're just being jackasses to like the living.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. I would definitely say it was more demonic possession.
Yeah. But I can't tell you how many people will tell me that they're zombie films. And I'm like, no, they're not. It's demon possession. But
so
they think of it as zombie film. I wonder if it's just because it has like a similar vibe to like Night of the Living Dead and like a lot of those like other like Day of the Dead type films.
I don't know. You go out in the woods in the middle of nowhere and the woods comes out and gets you.
I mean, it's like that's the basis of every horror movie, no matter the subgenre.
Sure. I don't know.
Yep. But the lady's like, I'm gonna eat your soul. I'm gonna eat your soul. What zombie's gonna say that? A demon, yes. Not a zombie.
Yeah. Well, depends. In like the African folklore, they would steal the souls. Because they would capture the souls, bottle them up, and use them as like lucky charms and things like that.
Yeah, but they're using the Necronomicon. And you don't need to say the words out loud if you don't know Latin.
You never read the Latin. You never read the Latin.
Unless you know Latin. I know how to read Latin, but I ain't going to read it out loud just in case I might mess up. I might get nervous and I might mess up. So,
I mean, have we not learned anything from any of the movies out there? We got The Mummy. We got, obviously, the Evil Dead series, The Exorcist. Like, there's the whole Conjuring series. People do not read the Latin. If it's written on something ancient, leave it there, leave it buried, and do not read it. It got put there for a reason.
Oh, that reminds me, speaking of leaving it there, it's kind of zombie related, but voodoo related. There was a thing that happened in Macon, like, I want to say a month or two back, where they found voodoo ritual stuff.
Oh, yeah. I saw that in the news.
Oh, tell me.
And we're like, leave it alone.
Yeah.
So they found these voodoo ritual stuff. Like there was a skull, there was other charms and trinkets, and I want to say there was an animal offering. I don't remember, but Leon, I know Leon Jones. He is the coroner of Macon, and he's like, yeah, these was found, and we don't know if it's the some of these remains belong to the people of the cemetery, but we're gonna find out and yada yada yada. And a lot of people in Macon were like, leave it alone, sir. Do not touch that. Just leave it alone.
No
And even I
touching.
was like, Leon, what are you doing? Don't touch it. Just leave it alone.
Leave it lie.
Like, imagine if you're like a corner that comes up on scene and you're like, listen, I'm not touching it. Y'all could touch it. Y'all have to get another corner to touch this. I know what it means. Leave it alone.
Oh, I just thought of another movie. And this one, it's an animated film. And I think it's kind of a great like lead in for children or people who are just like not huge into like horror movies and stuff like that. But The Corpse Bride.
Oh
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Technically, she's a zombie.
Yep, she is.
Undead, brought to life. Do you really think like the wedding would have been legal?
No,
No.
she's dead. She's undead.
Spiritually, yes. I think
Spiritually,
the wedding would have been viable. However, legally, no. Mm-mm.
because there's been ghost weddings and or spirit weddings done in China, where so the
I
so
mean,
the so the soul of the past person wouldn't be alone. At least they'll be married. So yeah, spiritually
I
legal.
mean, I mean, technically, a wedding is a spiritual union. It is not a legal one.
Yeah.
It's
True.
a religious ceremony. So,
Oh, another zombie anime, High School of the Dead.
Oh, that's right.
Forget all about the gratuitous butt shots, boob shots, all that. Just watch the story. Watch the story.
Yeah, that's
Listen
something
for
goes
it.
with anime. Yeah.
yeah. So we've kind of talked about like Corpse Bride. We've talked about like all these other things. We do have a couple more like TV show type things that we wanted to hit up. Lisa, which one was it that you wanted to talk about real quick?
The Santa Clara Diet. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
And
with Drew Barrymore.
Barrymore, and she does a really great job. I loved it. I liked the rotting head. I kind of hated that it ended.
Yeah, I hated how it ended.
I really hated how it ended, but I really liked the way she kind of blended in as best as she could, and no one really suspected her until like later on. But it was pretty cool. I like the whole I'm brain dead.
I'm sorry.
No, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. It was a good show. It's like she
It
had
was.
like that craving. She went
Yeah.
after it,
But
but she was trying to be like as like good about it as she could be.
well, yeah.
And then Timothy, he did an amazing job in it.
Uh,
I mean, how would you respond to your spouse being a zombie?
I probably kill it.
Like
It
you
depends.
wake up and you find out that like the fresher the better, and like they need it or else they're gonna eat you.
Yeah.
Like,
True.
It's like if we didn't have kids, you'd be dead by now.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think I agree with you, Karen.
Like we're a family, and I have to take care of you. I have to like clean up your mess. Like,
and then to have like a teenage daughter who then finds out her mom's a zombie. Like if I found out my mom was a zombie, I I don't know. I don't know what I would have done. Actually, I probably would have thought it was really cool, but let's be honest. I'm a weird one. I would have thought it was cool. But at the same time,
is she gonna eat me?
mhm,
Sleep with one eye open.
yep. But that
So,
cast was actually pretty good. Like I don't think of anybody in there that wasn't just absolutely hilarious.
exactly.
Oh no, I like that scene with the with Timothy and the daughter, and he's like pulling his pot, his cast iron pot, out of the water. It broke my soul. It broke my soul. I saw that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, when I saw that I was like, "Sir, did you not learn how to take care of those?"
and he was like, "What did you do?" I was soaking them to clean them up. No, you're killing my pots.
Exactly. Exactly.
And thank goodness, like nobody in my family who had cast iron pots and pans washed it with me because they've been cussing out somebody. Them cussing out somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Try to jump in the
Besides
teeth.
that, it's such a process to like re-season them and like get them back in a good spot. Oh,
Eggs.
like it's like an all-day affair for me. Like it is not something that happens overnight. But yeah, no, that was actually a really great show that I think it almost like normalized
Yeah.
zombies to a certain extent.
It could have
But
probably had gone on for another season.
I
Yeah.
think if it wasn't a Netflix original, because it was a Netflix original, right?
Yes.
I think if it wasn't a Netflix original, it would have had at least 10 seasons,
Hmm.
Yeah.
at least.
I agree.
Especially because I think that one also came out kind of when like The Walking Dead was in its prime and everybody was wanting zombie things.
I think it came out like when Fear of the Walking Dead came out, but I don't remember because
Let's
I
see.
remember a lot of zombies.
2017.
And I think Fear of the Walking Dead came out in 2016, 2017.
Not really sure. Let's look that up.
2015.
Okay, so somewhere around that time.
Yeah. But then there's one last show I'd like us to give a nod to, which is Z Nation, which was a sci-fi show. I loved that show. What did you guys think?
The episode until they killed off the dude, the captain, the main male character. Once they killed him off, like, no, you don't kill him off. Why? I was having feelings for him. I was catching feelings. You don't kill off my man. And after that, I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch it now. So all sad because I killed off my man's. And then it becomes hilarious when zombies are like, having sex with each other because they got into the Viagra patch.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
The Viagra.
Oh my, that movie or that show. That
Oh,
show.
vision.
I think that show was really well done. I think it made fun of a lot of the silliness that can be made fun of when it comes to zombies. But then at the same time, I think it hit a lot of good points about like what we as humans would do, but you could take it in a more funny manner.
Yeah.
And I think the cast was fantastic. Like the guy who played Murphy, he knocked it out of the park. He was absolutely perfect for that role. And of course, we have one of my favorite guys. I feel like he's always in the fun, like nerdy stuff. But DJ Qualls.
Oh, I love him.
I love him. I can't think of anything he's been in that I haven't thoroughly enjoyed.
The first time I've seen DJ Quells was in Criminal Minds, and I was like, that he's gonna go somewhere. And look at him now. Love him.
I think the first thing I saw him in was Supernatural. He was one of the other hunters. I mean, he obviously was in Criminal Minds too, but he's just a fantastic actor, and he does a lot of horror stuff too. Now that
Yeah,
I
he
think
does.
about it,
And then there was that one character. Was it 10,000 or 1,000?
10K,
10K? Yeah, I loved him.
10K.
I was like, you're a good shot, man. I need you on my team.
I loved Abby. I loved Abby. She was fun. I hated that she like left and came back the way she did, but
Mhm.
but I liked her character. I thought her character was pretty cool. There were certain characters that I'm like, you are just too much for me. Like if we were in like a real life situation, I would not be hanging out with you. I didn't care if you were my last chance at survival in this. I can't handle you. We are parting ways.
And what about you, Lisa? What are your thoughts on Z Nation?
I don't have any thoughts because I haven't seen it.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Yes, shame on me.
That's
But
okay.
I will put it on my list. So I'll
It's
watch it too.
it's definitely a sci-fi
Cool.
original comedy on zombies. So do be aware.
That's cool.
Yeah,
They do have a zombie baby.
there is a zombie baby.
cool.
The zombie baby.
A zombie baby.
Oh yeah.
Instead of brains, does it go moo? Moo.
Oh no, it goes for
It's ravenous. It's like a
Ravenous.
little terror.
That's cool.
It's more like kind of thing.
That baby kind of reminds me of the baby in Cooties, the movie Cooties.
Oh my God, that's another zombie. That was so funny. I forgot about that one.
Bring it all around to zombies.
So, for all you who are listening, which zombie film do you think you would survive if you were to suddenly be in that film? And what are some of your favorite zombies? We would love to hear your thoughts. You can tell us on our social media, so we can continue this conversation. We're on Instagram, TikTok, X, Threads, and we have an amazing Facebook group. We would love for you all to come on and join us there. You can also subscribe, rate us, and like everywhere that you can find a podcast, including YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and Google. So that's where you can find Earth Station Boo. But you guess what? You can also follow some of us on our own personal things. Lisa, where can they find you at?
You can find me Facebook, Instagram. You can find me on Threads, and now I'm on Discord.
Cool. Which we will be doing a Discord also here pretty soon. We just got to get a few different little things worked out logistically for it. Karen, where can they find you?
Just click on my Linktree, man. Just click on my Linktree. I have so many social media pages. Linktree, just click on that.
And you can find me at Spilled Tea Wine Media Mind on all the different platforms. Just we'll plug that in and I'll pop up. But before we go, we do want to thank you, the listener, for joining us. We really do appreciate you and your support. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and tell all your friends about the podcast. We're having a blast making it, and we hope you're having a blast listening to it. So stay spookily, our lovely ghouls. And this has been the Spooky and Kooky podcast of Earth Station Boo.